This video is going to be about taking those problems that are a lot of the word problems and translating them into math, or perhaps interpreting what a word problem is asking about. So the first thing I'm going to you've probably seen this poster all over the place, but these are some of your common words that you're going to use to indicate certain operations when you're writing equations that were words instead of equations before. So a lot of these are pretty straightforward. We know sum means to add. Obviously, plus means to add. There are a couple that might be a little more confusing, especially when they use more or and you kind of have to pay attention to the words and the context that they're in. Subtraction, a lot of these, again, are what we're used to: subtract, decreased, all of those. It's the multiplication that sometimes we forget about this word of. When they say we have 12 of something, that means I multiply, okay? And then same thing with division. We have a couple: quotient, ratio, per. Per is a really good division word. And then the biggest one that I want you to remember is that an equals is an is. So if they say 2 plus 4 is 6, that is right there. The is the equal sign. So if you ever see that is, for the most part, like 95% of the time, that means jot down an equal sign and go to the next side of your equation, okay? There are two tricky things that might happen. For instance, if you're finding parentheses or you have something called a turnaround word, that uses the word of, which kind of tells you that you're multiplying. But if they have times the difference of, you're going to have like 2 times whatever these two things were subtracted, okay? Same deal if they say twice the sum of or plus the difference of. That's going to indicate there's some sort of parentheses going on. And then when I say turnaround words, if I, for instance, have 2 less than a number, we don't write 2 minus the number, we write the number minus 2. So when you turn that around, if you have a less than or I take away from, we have to make sure we go in the right order, especially for subtraction. Okay, so less than means flip it around, put the first number second, just because it makes sense mathematically. If you're saying you're less than something else, you are the bigger thing and then less than. Okay, so let's do a couple example problems. We have one that's just a flat out translating one. So there's a lot of different words going on in here, and you have to translate into the mathematical equation. So the quotient means divide. So we're going to take a divided by b, which another way to write that is to do the fraction bar. So the quotient of a and b is, here's your is, so that means here's my equal sign. So as I'm doing this, I'm going through my answer choices to see if I can cross any off. Unfortunately, they're like, yes, they all know quotient, and so we have to go to the next part. Here's your turnaround word. It says 12 less than. So it's blah, blah, blah minus 12. 12 should come second. So I can go back through here now to get rid of some of them. So it can't be B because 12 is first. Can't be C because 12 is first. Can't be D because 12 is first. Cool. I already crossed off a bunch of them. I got a 50-50 shot of getting this right, guys. So then it says 3 times the sum of A and B. So here are those parentheses that we were talking about. So we're going to take 3 times whatever A and B added together would be. So then that answer choice would have to be answer choice E. Okay, if you notice here, they didn't even distribute the 3 inside. I don't know what they were doing there. But again, you have to kind of know where to go here. It's logical, but sometimes if you're trying to go through something fast, you're not going to take the time to sit down and actually read the word. So please try to read the word. Notice that took me far less than a minute to solve, and that was me talking through it without being able to just put it in my brain. Okay, this next one, same idea. They're going to give you words that they want you to translate, but then they want you to solve the equation. So let's first get the equation, otherwise how are we going to solve it? A number x is decreased by 23, so there's the minus, and then multiplied by 1/2. So we're going to take that entire result and multiply it by 1/2. So that was kind of telling me parentheses without very explicitly saying it, but I have to find that first answer, then multiply it by 1/2. This result is, there's your is, so whatever we got from this, 8 more than twice the number x. So technically this is a turnaround word since it has the than in it. So I should say 2x plus 8. You can write 8 plus 2x. It doesn't really matter because it's addition. It really matters for subtraction. Okay, now I have this. Yes, you could solve this. Great, awesome. I have faith in your skills, but I also know that there's going to be a fraction involved here. So there's two things you could do at this point. You could take each of these answer choices and plug them in for x and see which one actually worked. Or, as a reminder, we can use that thing on our calculator called the numeric solver. So if I go to find the numeric solver, again, it's under the math menu, and then it's at the very bottom. Okay, again, math. B or whatever it is, might be C on yours. And then I'm just going to type in that equation. Whoa, look, I already have it. Notice I used a 0.5 instead of a 1/2. It won't matter. And then I used 8 plus 2x. Again, this won't matter just because of the order of operation. So you type in your left side into E1, your right side into E2, and then you're going to press the OK button, which mine's kind of weirdly set up, but it's actually the graph button. Okay, then you're going to hit solve once you're on the X. And again, you can change things like the bounds. You can also type in an answer if you think you know what the answer is, but this is not the answer until it has a little button next to it, like a little, I don't know, square bullet, square. There we go. And so my answer for this one is -13. Okay, so please, please, please be using your numeric solver. Even with like the trig problems, use the numeric solver. Okay, this last one is dealing kind of with word problems, but it's not asking you to translate as much. It's giving you a situation and asking you to interpret it. So they're giving you a revenue in dollars from selling X chairs. So an X is a chair and R is the revenue, so how much money you're making. And then it asks you how many chairs must be sold to maximize revenue. Here's another option where I can, or another problem where I can actually plug in all these answer choices and see which one gives me the most revenue. So whichever gives me the biggest Y in here. That would work. Again, that might take some time that you don't want to spend on this. You can also go into Y equals and plug this equation in. And the only problem that I can foresee with this is that we're going to have to change the window, okay, when I'm looking at it. Because if I just flat out graph it, I'm probably not going to see anything. Oh, look, I saw something. Okay, looking at the answer choices, we have some pretty large answer choices. So to go to my window, again, these represent X's, so I'm going to make my X bigger. So maybe make this 100, and I hope I'm making more than $10 profit, so maybe make this 1,000. I don't know. Where am I getting these numbers from? I'm just guesstimating. Okay, well, it looks like I have figured out that Y or X has to be less than 100, so that's good. It's probably not these giant ones. If I'd gotten my window to not fit that, I would have gone and made my window even more giant, and then I can go make my Y even bigger to see if I can find that maximum. Again, we're trying to maximize the revenue, so we want a maximum value on the graph. There it is. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this peak value, and I could find it in the table. But if I'm looking at the graph, I can do second, trace, and then pick which thing I'm looking for. So since I'm looking for a maximum, not a minimum, I want max. And then I'm going to go to that top point and then follow the directions at the bottom. So it says left bound. So you're going to go a little bit to the left of wherever you think your answer is. And then it asks, and press enter. And then it asks you for the right bound. So you're going to go a little bit right to where you think your answer is, and then press enter. Then it asks you to guess. You don't actually have to guess. Heat of the moment, just press enter again. And so my maximum is at 45 point blah, 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 blah. It's trying its hardest to please you here. So it says how many chairs must be sold. So that means that's the X value and it's 45. That tells you that's going to be the maximum revenue. Okay, again, try a lot of these word problems. A lot of it is plug in, figure it out, or there are some other methods you can use to solve, like this one where I could type it into my calculator.